Welcome to Boredom Sated. I am Jonathan.
And I am John.
What we're going to talk about today is specifically our favorite superhero movies pre-Batman Begins, pre-MCU. So anything before the year 2005. Now, one of the caveats we put on here is that they must have been the adaptation from a comic book. So the main thing that gets rid of is The Incredibles.
That's correct. Everything has to be originating in a comic book for this list.
Now, we probably could have made an exception because I'm pretty sure that comics books didn't really exist if we were going to go with any of the Zorro movies. But
That's true.
It doesn't matter. The point is that everything that we've picked is the adaptation from a comic book, and we've picked some stuff, and we're going to go over a top 5 list respectively. Our lists have a few things that are similar and several things that are very different.
We went in a very different direction from some of them. Some of these are actually quite weird, and some people will not even realize that they were even movies.
I feel like there's only the one, and that's yours.
Well,
you might as well start with it. Go right ahead, or we'll start with your number 5.
I'll start with my number 5. It is something people don't realize was released as a double movie before actually being re-edited into a series, and that is The Incredible Hulk and The Return of the Incredible Hulk, both released in 1977, and it actually was internationally a theatrical release. And over in America, it was actually a made-for-TV movie. And then they re-edited and made them into their own pilots of the actual 5-season series. And then you know that they made 3 other movies at the end, killing the Incredible Hulk at the very end. So that is the full span of the Incredible Hulk series. It's one of the first superheroes that I watched, along with my number 4 pick, but we'll wait for that one.
That's fair. So one of the other things, obviously, about this list that we forgot to mention is that we wanted only things that were theatrically released. Otherwise, we'd probably be talking about some cartoon movies that came out, especially in the 90s and early 2000s. So we're talking about theatrically released movies only. My number 5 is going to be a bit more well-known. I'm going with the Spider-Man 2 Tobey Maguire. I believe it was 2004. 2004 was actually a very good year for comic book movies. The reason why I picked number 2 over number 1 is because I really enjoyed Alfred Molina's story as Doc Ock. I feel that he was a very relatable and fun villain the way they did him, and it takes away from the whininess of Tobey Maguire. The first one was also good. A lot of my picks, in fact, reasonably all of my picks, you could look at both the first and second movie in the film franchise, and they were all very good. There's only one where it's kind of a little off, but we'll talk about that when we get there.
So my number 4 pick is what really started watching superhero movies back in the day. Not that year, but back in the day, they always repeated all this stuff. Was Batman the movie from 1966. The Adam West, Burt Ward movie. Very campy, but that's really, one of the main things I used to watch with the Super Friends and all that was on TV all the time in the 80s. And that's what really got me into the superhero world.
If you haven't seen it, it is a very fun and entertaining movie. I mean, it's bad, but it's hilariously fun. Some of the plot aspects of it are just amazing. And also, it is an all-star cast. The problem is, for most people who are watching this video, you still will have no idea who anyone is. But it is an all-star cast at the time.
Although you may have seen them around in some other, superhero as like a cameo, because they do that. But, just remember the bat shark repellent.
And, of course, most people these days will know Adam West from his role as Mayor Adam West on Family Guy. My number 4 is Hellboy. Obviously not the most recent one, which got terrible reviews, and I haven't seen it. The 2004 release Hellboy. It has a great origin story. It has a great villain. It has a lot of drama. It's got an all-star cast. And again, it is a wonderful film. The second film does not fit our criteria for this because the second film came out in, I think, 2008. I could be wrong on that one. But both films are a lot of fun. The second one, obviously not as good. And they got rid of some character development and things like that. But the first one is very, very fun. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy it, and comparatively, there's not a lot to go wrong.
So my number 3 is now we get into the more bigger theatrical releases. It's going to be Blade from 1998. This is the half vampire Blade, and it was more Dark Knight type of Batman-esque feel to these movies, but more in a lot of action.
They were really the first good rated R superhero movies. I really enjoy the Blade series as well, but it did not make my top 5 list. However, my number 3 also has a very dark feel to it, and for some might not be considered a superhero movie, but really it is. It's The Crow from 1994. The Crow is, for anybody who was adapted from a 1989 comic, so it does count towards our criteria, and also, if you think but what are his superpowers? Well, I mean, he's undead and he can't be killed unless the crow is messed up. So he's got a lot of very cool powers, and it's a very fun movie. Now, the problem with this one, I do enjoy the second movie in the franchise, but the second movie is a completely different character in a completely different situation. It's basically a retelling of the story with slightly different concepts, because you can't really have the crow come back. That's not how that works.
Well,
so they're both good, but the first one is the main one for this story here.
And of course, the added problem was the lead, Brandon Lee, was actually killed in an accident on that shoot of The Crow.
Yes, and if you watch the scene where he was supposedly killed, you can take a guess. It's one of 2 possible places where it looks like, that looks like that shouldn't be there in the filming. So you can take a look at that yourself. Try not to give anything away.
Yeah. My number 2 is Batman from 1989. Jack Nicholson as the Joker and Michael Keaton as Bruce Wayne, where most people would never think of Michael Keaton as a Bruce Wayne or a Batman. They actually made it look good. This is a Tim Burton release. He did the first 2 movies, and frankly, Jack Nicholson as the Joker just blows it away.
I agree, which you'll realize relatively soon, of course. My number 2 is slightly different. It is the 1980 release Superman 2. This is where we get to the Superman 1 and 2. Again, fantastic movies. Both of them work really well together. Superman 1 is more of a storytelling, just like getting the introduction of the characters the first half of the movie. He doesn't really do all that many like super things other than what you expect him to do. And he's not really fading a true supervillain in that movie. Whereas in the second one, General Zod and his 2 cronies, kind of. And it is a fantastic movie. Both of them are wonderful. And they are among the first superhero movies that I remember watching as a kid.
And my number 1 is Superman 2. And you must kneel before Zod.
Yes, kneel before Zod.
And, that whole Superman 2 was like one of the best Superman movies, probably the best Superman movie ever made so far. Sadly, we've had many tries with the Superman Returns and
Superman Returns, remember, was viable for this list. There's a reason it wasn't even mentioned.
But, they had a lot of tries, but they just could never meet up with how good Superman 2 came out.
And my number 1 was his number 2, which is the 1989 Batman. After Superman 4, The Quest for Peace came out, a lot of people thought the superhero genre was going to be dead for a while. And it looked like it was going to be. And then Batman came in with a different feel, a darker feel, and it was really good. Again, in this case, Batman and Batman Returns, both fantastic movies. I had a hard decision determining which one I would prefer to have be on my list. But as John said, Jack Nicholson is a fantastic Joker. There are some wonderful, wonderful lines. Where does he get all those wonderful toys?
And the old place where they're dropping money all over the place and gassing everybody to death.
Yes, Jack Nicholson, although his origin for being the Joker is kind of meh, I do really, really enjoy that movie, and Jack Nicholson puts in a fantastic performance, as of course does Michael Keaton. The main reason why it's hard to determine whether one or two is better is partially because of the other characters. Vicky Vale or Catwoman being that third tertiary character. Catwoman is a better tertiary character than Vicky Vale was.
Indeed.
But Jack Nicholson.
And on the superhero, kind of a bonus on the superhero genre back in the day, they were not making only the big names like Batman and Superman were making money, and Spider-Man, and Marvel was going through a bankruptcy, and they had to farm out all their movies and get a license to try to stay solvent. They offered Sony the entire Marvel franchise, every single character. And Sony winged back and said, "Nah, we just want Spider-Man." And that resulted in the MCU being born and actually upping all superhero movies.
Absolutely. If we did a all-time superhero movie list, it would be completely different.
Yes.
Do you even think anything from your top 5 here would make that list at this point?
I think a Superman 2 and a Batman would get there, but the others, not a chance.
I don't even think that they would make my top 5 at this point. It'd be really hard.
They'd be pushed down, definitely. But yeah, it's a lot of the best superhero movies have been lately, obviously, because a lot of the special effects need to go in place, and it's much better now. But still, it's just the storytelling is much better on a lot of superhero movies now. Everybody's had to up their game, and all because Sony declined to license the entire Marvel catalog.
As my final statement here, I will say superhero music has not gotten better.
No.
Because you cannot beat the original Superman and the original Batman, done, of course, by masters of their art. So the original Superman theme and the original Batman theme from those two movies are fantastic. And I'm sure if you listen to them, you'll be able to tell pretty easily who wrote them if you have any idea about movie music in general. Anyway, that's my final thought, John.
Yeah, that's all for me. We're Bored and Sated. Please like, subscribe, and put your comments. Tell us
if you like the list, let us know. Write your own.
Yep.
We'll tell you you're wrong or you're right. Or, everyone has their own opinion, man. Have a good day. Stay safe.
Goodbye.